Good day and greetings from the Great White North. My name is Prickly Poo and welcome to day 338 of a year of change. Today I want to bring up something that, yet another one of those, you don't really notice it until it's not there anymore things. And it's something that had happened this weekend which didn't even dawn on me until the next day. I had met up with a friend of mine for coffee and we hadn't seen each other in a few months. So we got together and I ended up spending 3 hours in a McDonald's. Not eating, by the way. Didn't order anything. That's sort of what I want to talk about. When I was sitting, again, didn't notice until the next day, but you're sitting there, you're talking back and forth with someone. We grabbed a coffee and just sort of caught up on a bunch of stuff. We hadn't talked to each other in quite a little while. So, but generally speaking, if you're in a situation like when I used to be in a situation like that, if I'm in a fast food place or, coffee shop or donut shop or any place that has food, generally you buy something while you're there. And I realized that this weekend when I was doing that, it wasn't even really on the radar. Like, we went there because they have good coffee, as opposed to some of the other shitty coffee places that are around. But it wasn't really anything that I was like, I should buy something while I'm here. Part of it is because obviously I wasn't hungry, but that's sort of what triggered it for me, was that being hungry was never really a reason for us to eat. And I had said this before, that, people like us, we aren't fat because we were hungry. Nobody is as fat as we are because they're hungry all the time. There are a whole slew of psychological issues that go along with that. That's the reason why we're fat. That's why we eat. But generally speaking, if you're in a situation like that, it would always be, I better buy something when I'm here because, I have a 5-minute drive home. And what if I get into an accident on the way home and then they take me to the hospital and I don't get to eat for days and days and days. So I better have something right now because I might die. But I found that, I didn't even really find while I was there. This is, the day after when I was thinking about this, that normally I would buy something while I'm there. And I'm not really a big McDonald's fan to begin with. Fast food in general is, everybody likes fast food. I could say, I'm not a fast food fan, but in general, I don't really buy a lot of stuff there, but that's just because I don't often go. There's no real underlying reason for it. But I had seen Super Size Me years and years and years ago when it came out, and that turned me off of fast food for a very long time. And then when I was working overnight, generally the only place that was open was McDonald's. So that's where we would go. And when I went for lunch, that's where I would pick up all my stuff and get usually like 2 double quarter pounders and a large fry and a large drink and everything else. But of course, at that stage, when you're buying stuff at 3 or 4 in the morning, generally speaking, it's been there for a while. It's not really super, super fresh. So eventually you just kind of go, I'll just do without. So, fast food, there are other places that I would prefer to go, but not a big McDonald's fan. But that wasn't the reason why I was buying anything. I wasn't hungry. I didn't really, of course, want to say, I'm just going to get a great big burger and fries and, junk food. Because I had been, doing well while I was sick and wanted to keep it going. So, that was pretty... Plus, again, wasn't hungry. But realizing that I wasn't hungry so I wouldn't eat something is something that's so strange because it's never been a good reason for us. If there was food present, it doesn't matter if you were hungry, we would eat it. Like, it's just sort of part of, it might not be for everybody, but for the vast majority of us that were fat, I'm still fat. I don't know why I keep saying that we're. For those of us that are obese, because I'm still in the obese category there. For those of us that are obese, if there's food that is presented or food that is available, we will eat it. It doesn't matter if we've just eaten. It doesn't matter if we're not hungry. It doesn't matter if we're full. If there's room, we will eat it. And just being in that situation where, I'm not going to have any because I'm not hungry, and then sitting there going, maybe I should get something. Should I get something? I don't really want anything. I shouldn't eat this. It never came up. I grabbed my coffee. I thought, I'm not hungry. I don't want anything. And then went and sat down and just sat with them for 2 or 3 hours. And it's odd to think of that because that's sort of how things stand now, that if I'm not hungry, I won't eat. And I mean, obviously not every day. There are days when you still go, I want something, I want to eat something. I don't care. And you have to sort of stop and think, are you really hungry? No, I'm not, but I just want to eat something. Generally, that's when I go for like fruits and vegetables and stuff, because at least that way I don't feel as guilty. But in this situation, it was just, no, I'm not hungry, and then 3 hours of not thinking about it, which never would have happened before. So I find that encouraging because, it's not going to happen every time, obviously, but to get to a stage where, you can say that and say, I didn't think of food for 3 hours while I was in a place that served food. It's weird. I mean, part of it as well, I feel kind of bad about this, but part of it as well was, part of the reason why I just went, no, I'm not going to get anything, is looking at the patrons in the restaurant. Yeah, I suppose. Restaurant? Was that what you would call it? McDonald's? In the McDonald's place. I feel weird calling it a restaurant. It's not really a restaurant. Anyway, because every last one of them, pretty much, looked like me. And there weren't, like healthy, skinny, athletic people that were going to McDonald's. And some of the people that were working there were, but just all the customers, they looked like me. And it's just, some of them were bigger, some of them were smaller, but all of us were obese. And of course, that just instantly you're like, yeah, even if I was hungry, I'm not hungry anymore. Which is really mean and judgmental, but I'm including myself in there as well. And we know that other people look at us that way and probably think the same thing. And it doesn't justify it or anything, but when you're looking at someone going, you know what, I've been there. I know what you're doing. I know what you're going through. I know that you may not even be hungry. Maybe you're just like, oh, you know what? There's a McDonald's close by. Let's go eat there. But it was just, I don't really know how to explain it, because unless you understand, unless you are, in there with me going, yeah, you don't have to be hungry to eat. It just has to be there. And you're not having to fight with it and saying, no, I shouldn't eat that because that's bad. And not going, well, no, I'm really not that hungry, so it's just force of habit. Just not having any thoughts about food at all in your head when you're sitting in a place that serves food is weird for me. It's just, and it's, again, so weird that it didn't register until the next day when I'm going, wait a minute. I wasn't thinking about any of that stuff. I wasn't struggling to, resist temptation. I wasn't sitting there going, this smells so good. I really wish I could have that. I mean, we haven't cut out any foods. We can pretty much eat what we want. It's just, we're trying to make better choices and eat healthier, obviously. But when you're in a situation like that, it's just, in the past anyway, normally it would be, no, I got to get something. I've resisted as long as I can. I'm going to buy something. Either that or you just say, you know what, I'm leaving. But there wasn't any struggle there. And I mean, I understand that, looking at the people that were there and just not being hungry were a part of that. But it wasn't 3 hours of resisting it. It was, I'm going to get my coffee. I don't want anything else. And that was the end of it. And it's so strange to sort of go through that, because I don't know when that happened. I don't know when that moment clicked over. It could have been 3 days ago. It could have been 3 months ago, where I stopped eating when I wasn't hungry. And I mean, we've been watching our calories, we've been tracking everything. So, I mean, part of it is, I need to have my meal times, when I can. This is when these are scheduled out. So I need to really make sure that I'm tracking all this stuff. But I find that mindless eating, that it's lessened. But it's, again, one of those things where you have to go back and really think hard and go, okay, when was the last time that I just sat and ate a whole bunch of stuff and looked down and went, oh, it's gone. And I can't think of, because I think part of it is because we're so very much aware of what we're eating now, that no matter what it is, even if it's something that you go, oh, I'm going to have a snack and I'll have a thing of microwave popcorn, it doesn't really matter, because you go, I'm going to have this thing of popcorn. So when it's gone, it's gone. But it's not the same as, well, it kind of is, actually. But anyway, it's not the same as saying, well, I'm just going to grab a bag of chips from the cupboard and sit there and eat, and then you go, oh, they're all gone. And I've done that so many times, whether it's chips or cookies or candies or sour jujubes or anything else, when you have a bag of something and you're just mindlessly eating while you're watching TV or while you're working on something or just doing anything, where, you're not realizing how much that you're eating. And then when it's all done, then you go, oh, I'm really, really full. What else do I have to eat? So I don't know when that happened, when I stopped eating when I wasn't hungry. And not during meal times and stuff like that, because during meal times you're very much aware of everything that's going on. But just having a moment where you go, yeah, I'm not really hungry, so I'm okay. I won't have anything. Because again, in the past, it wouldn't have mattered. If I was going somewhere, like if this had happened a year ago or 6 months ago or 2 months ago or whenever this moment was that switched over, if I had gone to McDonald's a year ago with a friend of mine and I wouldn't have just gotten a coffee, even if I had just had supper, if I had just had, a full meal, if I'm going to McDonald's, you're like, oh, I still want something. So whatever I have room for, I have room for probably just a little something. So maybe just one double quarter pounder and a medium fries and then just a small shake and then two pies and then some cookies and then some more fries. You just constantly just that intake of food. But I don't know. I'm not explaining this very well at all. And I realize that. But it's because it's so weird. It's so unique. It's not even unique or weird. What's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, weird. It's so foreign to me to realize that I didn't eat something simply because I wasn't hungry. And I mean, food has always taken up so much of our lives. It's always been at the forefront of absolutely everything. It just doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're, eating breakfast and you're thinking, well, what could I have for lunch? Then you eat lunch, and what can I have for supper? And then in between, you have your snacks, which are the size of meals for regular people. And as you're doing that, you think, well, I got to buy this and this and this. I want to go buy hot dogs and nachos and all the other bad stuff that we want. It was just 24 hours a day. Like, you thought about it from the moment you woke up until the moment you went to sleep. Or I did, anyway. I don't think I'm alone in this. I'm pretty sure that some of you out there are thinking the same thing. And to have a moment where, and it's not even just, obviously, there are times when you didn't think of it, but to have a moment like that and not think about it, just because you're in a conversation with someone else, you're just, I don't know. It's really weird. I'm kind of scared because it's such a strange thing to realize and then try to figure back and go, when was that happened? When was the moment when food stopped being the number one thought that I had throughout the entire day for my entire life? At some point, it's happened over the past year. I have no idea when, and I'm pretty sure it's something fairly recent as well. But I think a lot of that has come from, just being aware of what I'm eating, and tracking the food has helped me immensely. Not really cutting anything out, but when you have that choice to make and go, okay, do I want macaroni and cheese or do I want, chicken and rice? Of course, there are times when you go, I want macaroni and cheese. There you go. It's horrible for me, but it's good. I want some. But for the most part, we've been going, you know what? I really should be having the chicken and rice. For those of you that are going, oh my God, not rice. Rice is fine. It's okay. Calm down. So we've been making the majority of our choices anyway, have been the healthier ones. And when we start, especially mapping out, okay, this is when I have breakfast, this is when I have lunch, and saying I need to not really restrict the calories per meal, but by the end of the day, we need to have, at least some control over it. Not so much that it becomes obsessive, but enough that we can look at it and say, you know what, I've done really well this week. I stayed under my goal. I've been eating healthy foods. Yeah, maybe you had, a day where you fell off the wagon and you went, oh God, you know what? I had gum or candy or cookies or cakes or chips or whatever it is that you had. But for the rest of the week, you're still making progress. And I think a lot of that just sort of getting into that habit for such a long time. I mean, I've been tracking for 11 months now. 338 days. I was going to say 380. I'm like, wait a minute, that's more than a year. I can't math at all. So tracking for so long, it's nice to see something that finally has become habit. And I think part of that is just contributed to, no, I'm not hungry, so I don't need to think about it. It's just, I don't think I'm explaining this properly. The thought in my head was not, I'm not hungry, therefore I won't eat anything. And then have the thought come back and go, you sure you don't want food? No, I'm not hungry, I don't need to eat. The thought never went into my head as to, should you get something? It did when I first walked in. Obviously, I was like, no, coffee is good. But then after that, it didn't come back around. And it was, not until late in the evening, and I went, I'm kind of hungry, I should have something. So It's just I'm not explaining this at all. I'm sorry. If it makes sense to you, then great. If it doesn't, I don't know what to tell you. I didn't think about food for a while. That's it. That's not news. It's not really anything to celebrate. It's like, hey, I didn't think about food for a bit. But I mean, for those of you that are out there that you know what this is like. Maybe you'll understand. Maybe you've reached that. Maybe you reached it long ago. Maybe you haven't gotten to that point yet. But it will come to a point, or it will come to pass. It will happen. See, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. It will eventually happen where you'll realize, and it won't be something that you're like, oh, I went to that restaurant and didn't think about food at all. It will be a delay. It has to be, because as soon as you realize it, then you're like, no, because now the thought's back in my head again. So that just sort of cancels all that stuff out. But realizing it the next day or a few days later, and you think, no, I went there and I wasn't preoccupied with food. That's probably the best way to put it. I wasn't preoccupied with food for the first time that I can remember anyway. I mean, when you're at work and stuff like that, I'm busy working, so I'm not really thinking, oh, well, I need to have food. I'm hungry. I should have this. I have the same lunch every day. I know it's in my car. So I know, okay, well, at 12:30, and it's usually, I'm getting hungry, that's when I'll go. But in this different sort of situation like that, like being in a fast food place or going to a donut shop, which I did with a friend of mine, and actually, now that I think about it, I did that with a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago. We went to a donut shop. I didn't really want a coffee. He grabbed a coffee, and he had something else, a donut or something. And aside from me making fun of him for buying a plain donut, who buys a plain donuts are for dogs. That's it. Like, people buy that for their pets. People don't eat those unless you're 95 years old, which he's not, but when it comes to donuts, he is. But again, it wasn't now that I'm thinking about it, it wasn't something I was like, oh, I really want a donut, but I really shouldn't. It was, no, I don't feel like having one. Which again is a weird thing, but that was at least a week ago. And I'm just realizing that now. So it happened twice. Neat. That's what a realization looks like. So eventually it will happen if it hasn't happened already for you. And if it's something that you can sort of stop and think back, then maybe it'll dawn on you and you go, yeah, this was like a month ago. I went and, we were at this place and I just didn't think of it while I was there. It's really weird. It's a weird feeling. It's, I don't know. I can't explain it because I'm terrible at explaining it, obviously. But it was just something that I thought I would bring up to see if, anyone else has sort of run through that. And if you haven't, it will happen eventually, where it'll dawn on you that, your attitude has changed somewhat. It's not going to change that way for every single instance. We are going to have moments when we go in and we're just like fucking radar right there going, I want a pie, or I want a burger, or I want something from the menu. It's nice to know that it can happen once in a while. Because before, it simply never would have. It's not anything that you would even fathom. That if someone had said to me a year ago, well, you're going to go into a McDonald's or Wendy's or Burger King or wherever, and you're not going to think about food for 3 hours while you're in there. You're full of shit. You're crazy. There's no way. You just simply can't do it. But yeah, apparently you can. And like a normal person, which is kind of weird. And it's odd to have this realization so close to the end of what we're trying to do here. But I think it's a nice little, reinforcement of, what we've been doing has been working. And because our goal, the weight loss goals obviously are there as well. But our goal for this year was to get to a point where we would respond differently when it came to our eating habits and food in general. And, whether it's overeating or bad eating habits, or which sound like you're eating with a pitchfork. But you know what I mean? Like, eating junk food all the time or eating fast food all the time, switching things up that way, and just even just our eating schedule, having normal sized meals at regular times instead of just it being a blur of food and going to the bathroom all the time. That was, a big part of what we were trying to do for this year. And it's nice to see another little, milestone get hit going, yeah, you sat in a restaurant and didn't think of food for a bit. It sounds really shitty when you say it like that, but for me, it's significant. And for any of you out there that have dealt with the same thing, that you've realized it, that it's happened, you understand. It is a significant thing. We just can't explain it to other people. Well, I can't. You might be able to. And if you can, bravo. Go to it. You're going to do much, much better than I can. But yeah, that's all I wanted to do, was just sort of share that and try to explain what I meant. I don't think I did. So I've probably left you more confused than ever, but I'm not going to fix it. Instead, I'm going to leave this video here. So thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, please poke the like button for me. And in the meantime, keep yourself warm and fuzzy, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.